Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the October 15th special meeting. This meeting is between the RSU 14 Board of Directors and the Town of Raymond Board of Select Board. It's not men, it's Select Board right now. I want to get this right.
Yeah, we do
And
select
the
men, we leave it go, yeah.
And the town.
We say select board.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Doesn't have figure, huh?
We have
And
a
it
war
was
of
in
women.
the town manager, Don Willett. I don't know, Don, do you get both shots? I'm not sure how.
I'm mostly just getting a broad range view from this angle
The
here.
back
but
of our heads.
I can
The back.
switch to their faces from that camera over there when you need me to.
Yes. That makes it happy too. Okay, so we'll call the meeting to order. I think it would probably help if we have introduced ourselves, but just for everybody else, if we could just go around the table. Kate, we'll start with you and just introduce ourselves.
Kate Bricks.
Pete Hensler.
Diana Freusland.
I'm Marge Gavoni.
Eric Colby.
Ayana Maciel.
And Sandy Prince.
Don Davis.
And the board of, and start with town manager.
Don Willard.
Teresa Sadak.
Joe Burnett.
Sam Gifford.
Mike Reynolds.
Hey, and Ayana is our student representative. We have a representative from the high school who joins our board every year. So, anyway, who would like to start the discussion? I mean, it's been a while getting this going, getting together. And maybe I can start it off a bit with, and I made myself some notes here. And this is kind of a follow-up to last night. And I started thinking about, because there was a couple of folks who spoke and had comments about, you know, how long does it take consolidation to really unite folks? And then there was, I think, a question from the select board of, you know, okay, what took so long to get around to what one of the endeavors we're presently doing, which is the cost sharing formula. So I made some notes on that, but there is one clarification I did want to make. And you can see after I made my notes, I made more notes. I stopped on the way here, made another note. And that was, I think there was a comment made on the withdrawal of about a 2/3 vote. And I think when we looked back at it in the statute, I think that might be incorrect, because I think in there, so I'm asking you just to check it again. And I think that it basically says it's a majority of the voters present and voting.
No, it's 2/3 as of January.
Is it?
You gotta
Okay.
look at the new statute passed last year.
Can I do clarification on that also?
Oh, sure.
This is going to sound really odd, but the state has done sales because there were so many, that's what they called it, sales on this, because there's so many people withdrawing that they dropped it down to 50%, and that's where it's at, like right now.
Oh, okay.
But then when you showed me last night, the statute, it said as of January, you know, because Paula says you never know when it's going to go back up.
Oh,
And
was that January of
2015, yes.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Got
Does
it.
that supersede, man?
Go ahead.
Does that supersede the written agreement that we had back in 2009? It does.
It's a new law.
Okay.
That's right.
Mark, can I offer a suggestion?
Sure.
Because one of my goals tonight was to meet folks. I don't know where everybody's from and why they're here doing what they're doing, and maybe a little from us too for you, because
Great.
you know, I met Jennifer last night for the first time, and you I just met for the first time, but I don't know any backgrounds, or even I couldn't go Wyndham Raymond even, because I've voted for folks in Raymond because of recommendations. Like Teresa made a recommendation to me for somebody,
Yeah.
but I've never seen them.
Sure.
So if you don't, could
Yeah,
we
that's
back
fine.
up
We'll
just
start
half a
taking-
step,
Oh
if
my
that's all
God.
I'm
right?
sorry, because you're on the end. I know. You're not
We can
on the
go
end
here, I'll put
anymore.
Jennifer on the
Yeah, we can
spot.
start
if
on
you
this
want.
end, but please.
I'm ready.
So I'm Jen Moore, as I said last night. I am new as of June to the school board, and new really to this, to the whole world. I'm in healthcare by trade. That's what I do day to day. So I have a very steep learning curve, and I'm in listening and learning mode, but I have a passion for helping the community and a passion for education. I have two children in the district, third and I'm sorry, I'm Raymond. I have a third grader and a fifth grader in Raymond.
And so Eric Colby in Wyndham representative, and about the same thing. I mean, I've wanted to get involved because I have a child that's in the school system and had a great experience, him coming up through, and just wanted to be part of it.
Great.
And when did you start?
Oh, I'm pretty new too. Was it last September or last November?
November.
Last November.
Inside
It
joke.
seems like forever. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marge Gavoni, a Wyndham representative. I've been on the board, and it's a little weird, but I come on in the middle of consolidation. What a time, huh? That was like, because one of the board members left, and so there was an opening. And so I came in right in the middle, so I've kind of been here through that whole thing. And why'd I come on the board? I came on the board because I always felt that I'm in the schools a lot, always have been. I have a lot of grandchildren who are in the schools. My kids are way too old for school now. And so I felt that there needed to be more folks on the board who had a first-hand knowledge and more visibility within the schools, because a lot of the folks on school boards or any kind of board usually work, and so their access, their availability during the day is very limited to be able to get there. And I love kids. I just love kids.
Diana Freusland, Raymond. I've been on the board for 2 years. I have 2 kids in the middle school. I've been an 8th grader and a 5th grader. And I've been involved in the schools ever since my kids started kindergarten, which was not here. I'm relatively new to the town, but I'm just very involved with the schools. Since we have kids, we wanted to know how the process worked. I was always interested in politics and wondering who made all these decisions. So now I know.
Lucky you.
Lucky me.
Hi, so again, my name's Pete Hensler. I'm from Wyndham, although I live right on the Wyndham-Raymond border, about as close to Raymond as you can get. This is my first year on the board. I actually filled the seat that was vacated by Toby Pendle, so I'm actually up for re-election. So hopefully going to be on for 3 more years. And it's a similar theme. I have 3 young children, 7, 8, and 9, involved in the school district, and just wanted to have a hand in their experience and make sure that I was involved and knew what was going on.
Okay.
Now we got her.
I'm a teacher wannabe, come from a long line of teachers. Almost everybody in my family is a teacher, except for me. I got a business major, but I had 3 kids in school, and I found myself watching, which just sounds so weird, watching the school board meetings a lot, and I thought, wow, maybe you need to be on the other side of the camera. So been on the board for 12 years, running again. Thank heavens I'm running unopposed.
Good luck.
Well, with the exception of him and Dawn, so I know I'll be low man on the totem, but I'm okay with that. And I am really pretty passionate about education, and I'm passionate about my town. And I like the process. I've been involved as chair, vice chair. I've been on the finance. I've been on facilities. I'm on the cost sharing. I'm policy chair and have been for many years, which is a very interesting position to hold because that is ever changing. And as you may know, since consolidation in 2009, we've had to meld Raymond policies with Wyndham policies, which means that we had to have first, second readings for every single policy to create one policy book. So that was a lot of the work that I've been doing in the past. And I was a member of the consolidation committee, which was an interesting process and a lot of work and extremely complex, as 2 people on your select board know because they also served. And I'm delighted to be here, and I'm delighted to meet all of you.
If we could, real quick, if we could just go back real quick, and because a lot of people aren't aware of how many committees we do have, and if you could just go real quick, go through what committee you're on, or committees you're on.
I'm currently on the finance committee, who was previously on the middle school advisory committee, facilities committee.
Finance, policy, cost sharing, liaison with the real school, and the special projects we have going with AmeriCorps at the real school. Is that it?
I can't remember.
Off the top of my head.
I know.
Off the top of my head.
I know. I'm on the finance committee, the facilities committee. I was on the middle school advisory committee. I was on the playground committee for the school. I'm on the advisory committee for both of our technical schools, Westbrook and Pass in Portland, and on the cost sharing committee. I might have missed one, but it's enough.
So I'm on the technology committee and on the dropout prevention committee.
I feel like an underachiever. I'm on the facilities committee.
Okay. Don?
Well, I'm the hired hand. I've been here for 14 years in Raymond this fall, and my former chair told me not to talk about the number of years overall, but it would be about 32 or 3 in town government, 3 different towns. I guess I'm a partially recovering, bleeding heart liberal. I got into the business to make a difference in the world, to make the world better, and so you know, that's what the Great Society, you know, Kennedy Johnson time, growing up in that time, and thinking the government was the answer to a lot of the problems. But I've been working for some conservative Republicans for a while, and so now I'm, you know, either a victim of Stockholm syndrome, or I'm drifting more conservative, because I'm seeing the other side of that, and the idea of fiscal responsibility, which Raymond has been real good at, I think, over the last 7 years with, you know, this board and predecessor boards, and so trying to run the town in a you know, very responsible financial fiscal way, but also to take care of the very important social needs of the community. And so, but I got in it because I had a passion for improving, you know, folks' lives, and I think that's what government is still about, and hopefully will be about moving forward. At times it's very difficult and trying, but I'm an idealist, and that's why I do it.
I'm Teresa Sadek. I used to be on the school board for 3 years, and I was board chair, and then I was on the 4th year for consolidation, and it was a crazy time. It really was.
Pretty nuts.
Because it was like, we gotta do something. We had to do something. So I got off of that, and then I got this phone call about 2 years ago, and someone said to me they have to talk to me, and they want me to run for select board, and I said, will you represent me in divorce court? I said, because if I get into politics again, I said, I know nothing on the town side, and I'm learning, and I got a great group of guys here, I really do, and teach me and are patient with me, and as a lot of you know me in this room, I don't stand on the sidelines if I've got an issue. I'm not one to gripe on the side. I'll jump in and I'll do something about it, and done a lot with boosters, with Marge, volunteering, oh yeah, and so that's it.
I'm Joe Bruno. I started 1989, my first election to the school board in Raymond, served 2 terms on the school board, was state representative for 5 terms, Republican leader in the main house. After I got done with that, I'm finishing up my 3rd term as a selectman in town. I was also on the consolidation committee. Yeah, I own 10 pharmacies in the state of Maine. I'm a glutton.
I see you on TV.
Yes, you do. So I do all kinds of stuff. But I've been involved, and my kids went to school with Kate's kids, and so they're gone. I'm a grandfather now.
So am I.
Yeah.
I'm not a father.
I was going to say, you look
Yeah.
good. So.
Great.
I'm Sam Gifford. I'm doing my 2nd full term on the select board. I did a partial term for a person who left. I've been on the planning board. I've been on the budget finance committee. I was elected to the budget finance committee, but I never served because I was also elected to the select board at the same time. I've been in Raymond for 10 years. I don't know if you want to go through all the committees and that sort of thing. I founded the Raymond Revitalization Committee. I've been on all kinds of committees. You want them in alphabetical order. But anyway, I'm delighted to be here, and my passion is to serve the people I live with, and I'm delighted to do it.
Excellent.
I'm Mike Reynolds. My wife and I have been in town almost 20 years now. Our son is out of town attending college, but went through the school system, and when he started the school system, sounded like a lot of you, I started getting involved volunteered at the school, and I coached technology committee, and much like Teresa, I got a phone call one day and said, have you thought about? And that was almost 12 years ago now, and so I've enjoyed it. I do think you can make a difference and you can change things, and it seems like I got on the board and then the economy went. So that's pretty much
It's
what
all
we've
your
been
fault?
doing. Could be. And I'm our select board rep to the Greater Portland Council of Governments, and so I sit on the same committee with Tony, and we deal with regional issues, and I'm a big proponent of regionalization and where it can help. We've looked into consolidating fire departments with other communities. We have agreements with Fry Island. We have trade agreements for the fire department with Gray. I mean, how do you figure those things out? And so I believe strongly that, especially in today's communication, easy, that you can make it smaller with a larger area. So I'm bent that way.
Forgot to mention,
Excellent.
I'm involved with the Wyndham High School as a mentor for certain students that are in need, and I enjoy doing that very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank
We
you.
also have a cooperative relationship, I should add, with the school. We had it in Raymond, and we
Yes.
have it with the RSU,
Yeah.
along the line of what
Yeah.
Mike was just outlining. We trade services and so forth with the school.
Excellent. I feel like I'm sorry. I know you're sitting way down there, but I totally bypassed you guys. So, Dawn, if you...
That's all right.
Happy to. Well, I think I've spent probably, let me think this through, maybe 20% of my career in private, and now the majority, obviously, in the public sector. 2 grown daughters, 8 grandchildren, resident of Raymond. I call it an assignment, was the Portland Public Schools. Prior to that was the Cumberland North Yarmouth Schools. So I have a history, obviously, in education, which is what I value, I think, the most, given the times that we're in and the emphasis that I think needs to go towards that endeavor to make sure that we're all successful based on an educated society. So I think that's kind of the snapshot.
I actually started my career in the Wyndham school system as a special ed teacher, and then had the itch to get into school leadership and went to Gorham and did a variety of school leadership positions, special ed director, principal of elementary and the middle school. Stayed in Gorham for about 16 years, and both my wife and I and kids really lived in that community, and I just felt it was time to move on to something a little bit different and bigger. So I worked at the Portland school system for 6 years, and ended up in Wyndham as superintendent, and I teach at UNE and USM adjunct professor, and currently this year president of Cumberland County Association of Superintendents, and on the MSMA board as far as the ethics committee and professional development committee. And so it's good work, and I absolutely love being the superintendent and have really enjoyed the merger. It's been challenging, but many good opportunities have come from it, and it's pleased to have everybody here tonight and continue the conversation.
If you don't mind, I'd like to let Diana, because I'd like just to get a feel for why we have a student who's on our board. Diana?
All right. First of all, I'm honored to have been spoken to by Mr. Howell to be on this board. I'm a senior this year at Wyndham High School. I grew up in Raymond. And I'm really interested in politics. I want to go into law. And, I'm really here to kind of vouch for the students. It's important, with cell phone policies and, with getting the MacBooks this year, to have that student input to be able to change things for the better. So.
Excellent.
Can I just add one more thing? I should have.
Go for it. You know what? We have a seat right here for you.
Never.
You can add all you want.
My son is, just for the connection with the school board, my son is assistant school superintendent for Rocky River, Ohio, just outside of Cleveland. So, and I taught at SUNY. So, shall I go on?
So you just can't get, you can't go away from education, right? Is that what
I
you're
have a
saying?
lot of connection with education.
That's great. You know, and I think it's kind of nice because, you know, you get the feeling that the end is where we're all going. I mean, we all have the same destination. We want to do what's best for all the students in both of our towns and in our singular district. And that is what I can say, and I said a little bit about it last night, is that the collaboration on this board is unbelievable. I mean, it is exceptionally well, and I can attest to that because a lot of the groups, the advisory committees and other people at board, times I'm with other boards, there are people, and we've heard this from a lot of people, that they're very envious of the way that this board is able to collaborate and agree, and these are the words of Toby Pennells, God bless him. When he walked out of the meeting one night, somebody asked him something about a disagreement or whatever, and he says, you know, we may disagree, but we never walk out of here mad at each other, or there's never any hard feelings. You know, when we do things, there's one goal in mind, and we want to do what's best for all the students within the district. And you know, and that's where I think our hearts are, and I think that's where your hearts are also. And that's my short spiel.
I think that's a great foundation.
So.
Now you have your list.
But I ran out of time. But I have a thought though, because we are out of time. What I'd like to do is I'd like to compile this and send it to you, and also answer the question that you posed last night. And I can do that. I can put all this stuff and the rest of it into something that you can read and not my hieroglyphics, if that's fine, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I had a couple of questions. One was why it wasn't addressed earlier. I mean, by the agreement, you had to do it after 5 years. That was in the agreement. But you had the opportunity to do it after 2, going into the 3rd year. And I guess my second question is, you're still using that same formula. Are you changing the numbers because it was a rolling average? If I remember correctly, Don, it was a rolling average on that formula that you look back 2 years and plug in those numbers.
For the high school component, that's correct.
Right,
The debt service.
and the debt service component.
Yes, that's correct. Well, the debt service is owned by each community,
Right.
with the exception of a piece of the high school. So it is,
Right.
it did roll as you've just described.
Okay, so every year you plug in new numbers, because
Yeah.
our valuation in Raymond has dropped,
Yeah.
as it has in Wyndham.
Right.
But
Right.
we had a bigger drop in Raymond,
Mhm.
percentage-wise, than
Yeah.
we did in Wyndham.
I see, yeah.
So,
Okay.
you know, so looking at next year, if you take the current valuations, it may make a big difference,
Mm-hmm.
so.
Does that answer your second question?
Yeah,
That-
because he's using the rolling averages
Yes.
that's in the
In the
consolidation formula.
Okay,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
And I will, I'm sorry, Kate, one second. And I will say, and hindsight is a wonderful thing. And when I see that, in this, what I have here is kind of a list of, these are like the things that we've worked on, things that and it isn't busy work, it's have to be done type of stuff that comes along. And as I said, hindsight is a wonderful thing, and if we had thought to look, it's, you know, you see, if you look it up, it says, you know, within 5 years, and it's like, okay, it came earlier this year, it came up, and it was like, well, we were in the middle of doing the middle school advisory committee, and we've discovered, those of us that have been on the board a while, you can really only do due diligence to one project or one, whatever you're working on at a time, because it dilutes the effort if all of a sudden you say, you know, well, okay, we're going to take half the group and we're going to have them work on the cost sharing, and it's not a simple thing. It was not a simple thing, and I think that's why we made the decision that because the 5 years would have been up in June, it's kind of like we don't have time to really give it the depth of investigation that it reads, because there's a lot of things that can go into that, and there's a lot of investigation that needs to be done and a lot of data that needs to be collected. So that's why we decided at that point to just vote on it as it is, with the intent that we would, as soon as we convened in September, put the committee together, which is exactly what we did. Like I said, hindsight, it's kind of like, it would have been great to do it sooner, and we all share that responsibility that we didn't, but we have been so busy. There have been so many endeavors in the school department, and one of the biggest things, and this is going to sound silly, is the fact that Kate, myself, and Jerry are the only folks on the board who've been here since consolidation. So there's only 3 of us. Every time we've had an election, just about, we've gotten a new board member, either in November if it was Wyndham, or June if it was in Raymond. So there was constantly a matter of bringing new members of the board into, getting them up to snuff as to what do we do, how do we do budgets, and as you know, because you do budgets, budgets are very, very also time consuming. And the budget, and this also came up at the same time when it first, because it was Katrina who had first mentioned it at one of the meetings we were at, that, should we relook at that? And it was like, we were doing the middle school thing, we were doing the budget, and it's kind of like, it just wouldn't have been able to be done.
But you have a contract, right? You have a legal contract that says, that started, I think, in January '09, that said within you have the right to do it after 2 years, but you must do it after 5.
No,
I mean,
do I have it? I do
No,
have it.
it does say after the 2 years, that it has to be at least 2 years.
It has to be at least 2
Yeah,
years,
and then it
but
goes
mandatory after 5, which ran out in January.
Yeah, but they,
What you're looking for, can I just ask a question
Sure.
of them? The 3 of us had the joy.
Yep. I mean, I agreed to it.
No, yeah, we all did.
Yeah.
I've got to say, as a member of that committee, and I have read through the agreement recently, although don't ask me a question about it really, but I have to be really honest. I do not remember the 2-year gig.
yeah.
And so my question that I pose to you folks is, and I don't know the answer to this, did the selectmen request us to do that at year 2, 3, or 4, since you obviously have that information?
No, because we are a select board. We left after consolidation, and you have a contract. We had a contract that was signed off on.
Right.
You assume you're going to leave it to the school committee to do what's in the contract. That was our assumption. It's not up to us to bring it forward to you and say, you have a contract that says you must do this.
Yeah,
At
but
least
Joe,
that's
in all
not my
honesty, 3
perception.
years to let it go for your taxpayers, is that, if you knew it,
I don't think, and what happened is, I ended up, because I was trying to find, with this whole thing with the middle school, how can I stall this out, how can I change things, and talking to the state, she says, why don't you try this, ask for new updated cost evaluation rates. She says, you're probably still paying on 2006. So I sent a letter in March, and didn't hear anything back until May, and I wrote another thing in May, what's going on? And Katrina says that we're going to do it like July, August, and then, so back in March is when I had brought it up, but I would have never even thought about it. I would think budget time, consolidation, you're seeing the numbers as far as the students go, the percentage rate and stuff like that, that it would start to bring up different things, but no, there was a lot that was discussed. In those meetings.
There was. I think there's a little bit of ownership on both sides,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Your January date, this is what's confusing me, because I don't have that date. I have the date of July 1st, 2009, and that's how we came up with the date of, by the end of June, we had to make a decision. That was our 5 years, because the operational date to start was July 1st, 2009, which would have
Okay,
been...
I may be off on the date.
So that's why we took that vote in June. So we did, and we had the choice of either changing it or whatever, and we decided that we were going to vote it as was, with the caveat that we were going to relook at it after, because we knew we would be in violation of that if we didn't do it by July 1st.
Who brought it, I guess, how did you guys bring it up at your June meeting? Was it ever mentioned to you back in March that I requested
Oh
new
my
numbers
God,
ran?
I can't remember now.
Okay.
It
I'm
was mentioned
sorry.
prior to June.
I'm
Right.
sorry, yeah, but I don't remember March.
Okay,
Oh,
because that's
yeah,
when I
because
sent
that's
the
when we
letter.
had decided that we were going to
Right, it
vote
was
on
brought
it.
up before. I
Yeah.
just
To
don't
wait
remember.
till June, and with
I
this,
just remember when that was.
I don't remember either. I can go back in
No.
notes and try to find it for you. Not now.
I mean, we
because I
voted
have
on it in
notes.
June.
right, but June was
Right.
the end of it, is
Right,
what it was,
right,
yes.
Right.
Yes.
So meaning, knowing that that was an issue that was kind of festering because we were paying so much. And I think just to give it a brief, okay, let's just vote it, put it off to the side, is kind of, I think an insult to me personally, do you know what I mean? Not taking it as something really important as far as that percentage goes. You know, I definitely don't do the we, I do the I, and but it's, to me, I think that was an important thing, I really do. And I think that should have been something, because it is such a process, is what you have to do, you know?
And that's why, but that was why we didn't have the time to do it. I mean, when did we start this? I mean, we're mid-October, and we're not to the end of it, and we started, we put the committee together in August, no, the first meeting in August. So you see, it's time consuming, and we didn't want to rush it. We honestly didn't. So to say it's not important, I think is basically wrong. That was never the impression we intended to give, and I think we also stated when we made that motion to approve it that it was with the understanding that as soon as school started up, that would be one of the first things that we would address, and we would put that, and it was. Our first meeting in August is when we put that committee together. So I don't think there was ever, and if there was, I apologize.
Yeah,
I don't think there was ever an intention for it to look like we were not taking that as seriously, and we were, and we knew the time it would take to be able to do that in depth, and that's why we had to vote on it, let it go as was, and with the intent of putting that committee together as soon as we met again, which is what we did.
I mean, I wish, as a single board member,
Hindsight.
that you would have picked up the phone, because I didn't remember it at all. And this implicates your taxpayers, so if
It's not my role as a selectman.
is it your role to save your people money?
No, I have 3 members elected to your school committee
All right.
that I would count on to uphold the town of Raymond's voice on the school committee.
Okay, I really don't, I don't really want us to get in us and
No.
them. Believe me, we don't want to go there. We don't want to go there. We want to start with a
Learning.
clean,
Learning.
we want to start with a clean slate, and in the future, hopefully, if you think of something, God, just shoot any of us an email, and if we don't respond, it's dope slap time, you know. But you will get a response, and if you didn't get one, I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, I didn't, but that was Katrina. You have responded when we sent things back and forth after that. So, and yeah, so that's just a matter of.
So I would
time.
like a clean slate, and by the way, I'll get this out to you also. And thank you very much.
Nice meeting you, Fred.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, all those in favor? We're adjourned. Good evening. Welcome to the October 15th special meeting for the Wyndham Raymond RSU 14 Board of Directors meeting. Could I have a roll? Oh, it is 6:45. Could I have a roll call, please?
You sure can. Kate Bricks.
Here.
Eric Colby.
Here.
Jennifer Fleck.
Here.
Diana Forsland.
Here.
Marge Gavoni.
Here.
Pete Hensler.
Here.
Jen Moore.
Here.
Don Dillon. Jerry Keene Dwyer. And student rep Ayanna Maciel.
Okay, would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First on our agenda is public participation. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak? Okay, seeing nobody, we will close public participation. Next, we have the jump rope presentation. We have with us is Christine Hessler, who is the Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment. And Christine, you can introduce whomever else you brought.
I brought friends, because you're sick of seeing me by myself. I know you are. So tonight we are here to share with you the pilot of our new grading and reporting system. I brought along with me tonight Randy Crockett. He is the principal of the Raymond schools, Jordan Small and Raymond Elementary School, and would especially like to thank it's okay. John Powers, Jordan Small middle school teacher, who's come out tonight to share with you our experience and what we have learned so far about our new grading and reporting system. So before I let them unleash all their knowledge, I did want to remind the board that this has been a journey. When I arrived in this district 3 years ago, if I can believe it, we had a different report card in every building. That was one of the things that when I arrived, you're like, oh my gosh, it's all different legends, different keys, different grading. And so we had a lot of discussion, and what we decided is we need to change to a proficiency-based grading system. And it did us no good to all of a sudden change all the report cards and then have to rechange them again. And so we've been waiting very patiently to find a system that will actually articulate what we're doing in the classroom. So we've spent a lot of time. We've talked about a program called Educate. We looked at a whole bunch of them last year, and we decided that the jump rope system is the one that we decided that we wanted to pilot for a couple of reasons. The main reason is because the jump rope creators, developers, are working with us to make this system customized for RSU 14. The other ones we looked at literally said, here's our platform and here's what you need to do. And we found ourselves, and I'll use a Randy phrase, of all these workarounds to make it fit what we needed it to do. So what we're doing is messy, because we are not only flying the plane while we're building it, we're also buying the materials to build it as we do this piece. And we have some incredibly dedicated staff that have jumped in with us to work through this piece and to be able to show transparency of learning. So what we all know when we look at traditional grading is it just gives us a very tiny snapshot. We may have a math score of a B, but what does it really mean? And we've argued with this piece traditionally. So what we are hoping when we share with you tonight is you'll see the beginnings of a process of how we can report to parents, to students, the progression of learning from K through 12. With the end point being in a couple of years that our transcript will not only come from this system, but will provide us with all the details that we need for college and career-ready kiddos. So what I would like to do is have Randy come up and speak a little bit about his passion behind this work. This is being piloted in all of the schools in the RSU. Some schools are piloting and they're not reporting out this year. Some schools are piloting and they are reporting out this year. So there are different variations, and each school is communicating with parents in the community about what that looks like. The exciting piece at the high school, we've spent a lot of time talking about high school with the proficiency-based diploma, is the teams that are working on this are really digging in, making sure this is what we need, and again, giving feedback constantly to myself and to the developers about what we need tweaked, what we need changed to make this piece work. So, Mr. Crockett, would you like to start?
Sure.
Okay.
Thanks. I just thought I'd give a little history of where the district has come from with grading and reporting. And although we weren't consolidated when this conversation started, we were kind of aware that the conversation was going on. So Hal Shortsleeve, who was the principal at Wyndham Middle School, and I sat in a discussion about this type of program 8 years ago, having a reporting system that matched our proficiency-based, standards-based thinking. And trying to figure out how to get there. And so it's been a process, and it's been a long process. And each of the schools kind of went in different directions. I'm talking even pre-consolidation, but then we came together and some of the scales matched, sort of, but the way we were using Infinite Campus, which is our somewhat current and soon maybe not to be current reporting system, was that Wyndham Middle tried to set it up as a 4-letter scale. So some of you probably are familiar with that. There was a does not meet, partially meets, meets, and exceeds. And then at Jordan Small, we had discussion as a staff, and we decided to go to a 3-point scale. And RES was already in a 4-point scale. And it's not so much the scale that's important, it's what's underneath that. What we kept running up against was technology that was built on a 0 to 100 traditional based reporting system and scoring system. So no matter how we tried to finesse Infinite Campus, it never quite did what we wanted it to. Whether you were looking at how Wyndham Middle School was using it or how the elementary schools were using it, which was basically just to print a report card, or how Jordan Small was trying to use it to actually compute an average on a standards-based scale. And we had a lot of debate about that, but I won't bore you with the details. So we kept looking for something that would actually think like we were thinking, so that we hadn't, teachers are starting to approach education differently and what was important in giving students feedback and grades. And we needed a system that matched our thinking. So the further we got down the road of proficiency-based, conceptually, the harder it was to reconcile the grading system with what we're actually doing in the classroom. So I think Jump Rope is now finally giving us a chance to make a link between curriculum that's been developed and is defined, the learning targets that go in that, and then bringing that right to the assessment level and to the units that teachers are doing and giving them a direct link. And that's something we've never had before. So John's going to walk you through what that looks like from a technology standpoint. But you got to have that conceptual framework first, is that we used to try to make we tried to make the system work for the new thinking, but it really was based on the old thinking. So we've done a pretty good job in this district, I think, of helping teachers learn how to approach things from what is the student actually going to know and be able to do from this, not what was the score on the test. So we don't just look at, you've got a certain score, whether you're using the ABC scale or the 0 to 100 scale or whatever scale you're using. We're not score focused, we're about the assessment was on these particular targets and how did the student do on each target. And I think we finally have a reporting system that matches that type of thinking. The other component of this it's a work in progress, is guiding principles. So in different schools, different reporting methods were used to kind of capture those, and they were called different things. They were called habits of work, they were called effort grades, they were called something different at Wyndham Middle. Yeah, things like that, the 3 Bs at primary. So now we're all in the same language, which is the state's 5 guiding principles. So clear and effective communicator, self-directed lifelong learner, creative and practical problem solver, responsible involved citizen, integrative and informed thinker. Okay, so those are pretty lofty, big, broad ideas from the state. And if you go on the DOE site, you can see what the descriptions are. So our task now is to get it down to kid-friendly language. And so what we're trying to do at Jordan Small right now is clear and effective communicator, captures things like participates in class discussions, can work with a partner or a small group, ask for help when needed, uses the writing proficiency that we've developed, this type of thing. Self-directed and lifelong learner, can access digital and written resources, demonstrates a growth mindset, uses rubrics and matrices independently, and so forth. You get the gist. These are the things that aren't part of the academic curriculum, but are part of our sort of character or behavioral curriculum, and what we're trying to help students become as people, not just the content knowledge. So I think this system has a good way of capturing all that information for us. And although this is a pilot year, some principals are a little pushy about things, and so it's not usually me, but in this case it is. The schools here in Raymond we're not doing a pilot because it's just not, doesn't make sense to have 4 teachers or 5 teachers using Infinite Campus and 10 teachers using it. So we're all in at this point, which is creating a little bit of stress, not just for me, but more for the staff, and they're working really hard in both buildings. So I actually was on a conference call with Jump Rope folks this morning so they could tell me how to print progress reports, which are going to parents next week, which is scary because it's a whole new thing, and the learning curve is steep for all of us. But I'm pretty confident it's going to be all right. And it's a progress report, so if there's a few little confused things or miscalculations, we got time to fix it. It's not a, the final grade for the trimester or anything like that. But we're raring to go. So I'm going to let Mr. Powers take over, and he's going to walk you through. John's a member of the Task Group 1 and has been for a couple of years. He went to the B. McGarvey trainings, what was that, 4 years ago, 3 years ago? And so he was one of the folks that got to preview the various other platforms that we looked at in Task Group 1. And so what else? John's a pretty nice guy. No, he's all right, yeah. No, he's kind of stepped forward to be our go-to person at Jordan Small. And all the buildings have a go-to person. A teacher who's willing to say, yeah, I'll take some risks and do things like that. So thank you, John, and now you can do your shtick.
Actually, I'll just speak to the frustration a little bit about coming into this. And I got to be I say really honestly, I got to be the fortunate person that got to go be trained first. So I got through all the confusion and all that before it hit everyone else. So I stepped forward as the point person or whatever we're calling it to help people out with the program as we're in our school. But really, I get the privilege of being the one that doesn't have to be frustrated with it because I went to get trained ahead of time. We have already seen some of our staff hit that moment where they say, oh yeah, this makes a lot of sense to the way that we're actually teaching and giving feedback to students. So I guess my perspective as a teacher, as I went to these different meetings and looked at these different platforms for different software to report out, I kind of took it as, well, what's the whole purpose of a grading system anyway? And to me, it's, well, we're giving feedback to students on their proficiency levels so that we can make adjustments in our teaching or adjustments in their learning plans. And then secondary, well, maybe not even secondary, alongside with that would be communicating to parents the feedback that we're providing their student. So we have been working in the system of Infinite Campus, and I can remember several times knocking on Mr. Crockett's door saying, just this program won't do what I need it to do because this is the feedback I'm giving students, and I can't convey, unless I call every parent on the phone every time I do something, it won't show what I need it to. So I don't know as we stumbled across this program, but I know that there's some other places in the state that are using it. And I don't even know if you know this, Randy, but I have a sister-in-law that teaches in South Portland that's using this. So I have another support system, and she's been using it for a couple of years. So when I have questions, I have somebody to call. So I have asked for permission from some of the parents in one of the classes that I have if I can share some student data with you. So I will show you that at some point, just to show you the functionality. There's a lot of the stuff I show you in the beginning, so I'll log in right here on the screen. It's just kind of what I see and how I use it, and some of the things that are intuitive. And of course now we're going to be stuck at 3% the whole time, and I'll have to find, there we go. And so my screen starts off looking like this, and Infinite Campus, or the old platform where we didn't have a place where I could do any planning or gathering of standards and that sort of thing. So we have this bank of performance indicators over here on the left-hand side, things that students are expected to demonstrate proficiency in. And then I could go down here and grab a whole bunch more. So we do have a district standard bank that's in the process of being created. It's not finished at this point. Some subjects are a little bit further along than others, and math happens to be one that's a little bit more finished. So this could be, I could have gone and grabbed everything I teach the whole year and put it in there right now. I'm choosing to do it as I do assessments, just for the practicality, as I don't want everything there. So that's why it looks like, geez, that's all you're doing in geometry class. That's because these are the topics we're covering currently in class. And then on this side I have my assignments that I'm giving. If you can, I don't know if you can see these little numbers. You can click on one of these, and then a few of them get highlighted. So that assignment addresses several different standards that we're covering in the course. If I go to this thing, I'll show you one box here. This one is a summative assessment. So this is partially one of the really useful features about this program is it allows me to give them feedback, and the students can start kind of really understanding the difference between a formative and a summative assessment, which would, if you'll notice when I click on formative, the weight changes down here. So as I'm explaining to people that are struggling with this concept, formative and summative, formative, I'm giving them feedback on the learning that we're currently doing, but not expecting them to meet mastery yet. So if they are meeting mastery, great, we can move on to another thing. If they're not, it's weighted very, very low. It gives them feedback. Parents can see how they're doing currently in class on homework assignments or classwork or a little project that we did, something that we're doing in class. And then when the summatives, this would be more like a test or a big project or something. It's weighted more heavily, so it'll affect the final average a little bit more, or quite a lot more in this case, actually, 100 to 1. And then, when I give kids an assessment, they can understand, well, this is formative, I'm okay, I got a 2, this is feedback to me that I need to improve in these areas. In Infinite Campus, it was hard to differentiate between, well, this is really affecting your grade and this isn't affecting it so much, and how to settle things out. And as
John,
far
I'm
as-
going to interrupt
Sure.
you for just a
Yeah.
sec. Can you close that box? So you see Chapter 1 test and the blue. So they don't get a score on Chapter 1 test. It's not an amalgamation of a number of some kind of average. They're getting scored on each of those standards that are lit up.
Right.
So the
there's-
student's getting feedback on which pieces they're proficient on, not just, well, I got an 85,
On
so I
chap-
guess that's
right.
good enough. Whereas I may have been really good at 3 standards and terrible at another one, so that 85 doesn't really tell the teacher or the student what they don't know, what they still need to work on, whereas this system does that. So.
Right, so if I go into my grade tab here, I can kind of show you one of those little pieces. There's, so this one had that assignment, let me see if I can find that chapter test. So this one had 4 standards, so they've literally gotten 4 scores for that assignment based on the category of information, I guess, that the set of deal with. So they get feedback. They'll get a little feedback sheet from me, and then it goes in here. Right now, the parent portal isn't open, right? But eventually, parents will be able to go in and check this live. So the day the test happened, everything's entered, everything's live. Parents can check it immediately. I guess maybe the even ultimate goal is, I know we're getting ready to print progress reports, is we may get to the point soon in the future where we don't need them anymore, because there's a progress report current online always. So now let me just show you one more thing, and then if you have questions, you're welcome to ask. If I go into this is kind of, to me, the most useful piece. If I go into my mastery reports, first I can get a list of my students, or I can sort by assessment summary. It gets split into formative and summative. I can see how my class is doing as a whole. So this feature is great compared to what we had before. I can break down things. I can say, all right, who's struggling with which standard? I get a little bar of mastery here. And then go back to student for a moment. I've gotten Diana's permission to show our daughters in my class here. So, hey, I assured her ahead of time that she was doing fine. So, Jesus, I can see better. I stopped looking up there. So I can break this down. So this would be maybe something, clearly if Diana was in the parent portal and she logged in, she wouldn't see the rest of my students. Right. She wouldn't see all of that stuff. She'd just see this one piece with Haley there, and then she can kind of break it down as she sees fit. She can change the filters just like me, and then if she says, well, geez, she's got a 3 right now in geometric skills, but right here it's a 2.8. She can take this algebra review skill thing, break it down, and then have a conversation with Haley about, hey, geez, there's this one piece right here. Or she'd contact me and say, geez, there's one too. This is the one thing that you're not demonstrating proficiency in. and you know, since we're both here, the conversation that I would have would be like, well, right now, we're still working on that thing as a class, and we've moved on, sort of, we'll keep going back to it, but it's not a building block to what we're currently moving on to. So she was frustrated enough with it, we're moving on. So we'll go back to it, and this really gives them clear information about not the 85, what do I do? This is just very, very clear and concise. The one thing that she still needs to work on is using the rules of exponents to simplify algebraic expressions. Sure.
I just have to ask this because it's all over the place. What is a decaying average?
Sure. Well,
Sounds bad.
Yes, it does sound bad.
Right.
She's a big one.
It's we have several different options. Jump Rope gives you options on ways that it will calculate a final score for a course, because we're not at the point where anybody, I think, is willing to give up on that. And so one of them is decaying average. One of them I don't know if all the schools in the district are going with the same one.
Everyone is using decaying average right
So,
now instead of default.
So the way decaying average works is the first assessment that I put in. So if they had several summative assessments, which they will at some point, they'll have a couple of tests on the same skill. The first one that I put in is full weight. And then when I put the second one in, that first one that I put in is weighted at 66%. And then the next one is full weight. And then I put another one in, and that one is 66 of 66, and 66, and then full. So it just values the more current assessment a little bit higher. Good question. I wouldn't have thought to say that.
That's because you know what it means.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So there are others, and that's kind of the one that our theory on that is. I heard somebody give a great explanation of this that had to do with parachuting, and somebody was kids in a parachuting class, and one of them was really strong at the beginning, but then tailed off at the end. Do you want that person jumping out of a plane, or do you want the one that comes in and doesn't know anything, and then at the end they really figure it out? So that's kind of the theory of the decaying average, I think.
John, can I show something
Sure.
here too? I just want to point out on the screen, because we've had a lot of talk about the diploma in the transcript. So this is a performance indicator, and every time John assigns this to their students, a score goes in. This is what populates in the background to give us this graduation standard at the end of it. So all this stuff that's going on, here's how Jump Rope is scoring them each singly, but then in the background it's collecting all that evidence under here to say whether or not we're ready for proficiency in that big standard when we look at it. So I just wanted to point that little part out.
I'll kind of show one more feature that I think goes right alongside of that, is if I go into my standard bank and I sort, well, I guess I just go, this system will hopefully eventually be able to be used by students in a way where they can look ahead if they're ready to, and say, what are the standards that I need to address in the future? So I have access to all the 12th grade standards. So if I had a student that was able to meet something, even in my class in 8th grade, that went towards the graduations, this will keep it historical for their entire career in the district. It'll also allow us to, I mean, right now the standard bank is still a little bit of a work in progress, but once it's completed, over the course of the year or a couple of years, we really should have a set of standards that create consistency from here to the Wyndham Middle School or wherever it might be, that our courses are real, because Randy can sort and say, or Mr. Charlie can sort and find out which teachers are covering which standards in which class, and it gives them a little bit of level control of being big brother a little bit without having to walk through the door and take notes, as they can really see what we're assessing and teaching in the class. So that if something came up on a state assessment or that sort of thing, and our kids aren't proficient, we can say, well, where are we covering this material, and maybe we're not. So.
I also have for you, we printed off for you a sample report, so you could have something in your hand. This is not a complete report, and there are two. One is the very general report, where you'll see some standards and performance indicators. The second one is a front and back, and this gives you the breakdown of examples of assessments that have been given and how it's calculated. But this is a progress report that is kind of a sample, so you can see what are our parents going to see. What is it going to look like? We worked with Wyndham Primary's Parent Advisory Board. Michelle was there. She gave us great feedback as we're trying to unroll this to parents. What do we need to see? What do we need to hear? How are we going to make this accessible? So that whole piece we're working on is Jordan Small is next week. Progress reports are going home, and so conversations have started. And again, pilot means work in progress, a little muddy. But the goal is to have everything fleshed out and customize our system so that when everyone is on board, we're ready to rock and roll next year. So. You all set? Yeah. Any questions that anybody?
Okay, you want that
Oh, I'm sorry, Jennifer? I do. So I love the detail on this. I think this is great information as a parent. Is this what we'll receive this year, or is this a future?
If your child is in a pilot class, you'll be receiving a jump rope report. If you're not in a pilot class, you'll be getting your traditional Infinite Campus report.
So Jordan Small, yes.
Jordan Small, Raymond Elementary,
Elementary,
Manchester School, all of their teachers are using it this year. There is a group at Wyndham Primary. Wyndham Middle School is all using jump rope, but they are reporting out an Infinite Campus this year. So they're playing, they're using it, but they felt very comfortable and we're not ready to start and report out at this point. The other thing is Wyndham Middle School compared to Jordan Small, size-wise, as we're piloting. Pilot means small, and in some places it has turned big. So I think I have a pipeline to his phone constantly right now. But and at the high school, it's a pilot. They are not reporting out in this. They are very much in the development phase with jump rope to make this piece work for the transcript.
So, but the parents will get printed reports as opposed to
Yes.
log.
Yes,
we don't
they will get a
log
printed
into
report. We will open the portal when we feel ready. The last thing we want to do is open a portal live when teachers are still trying to wrap their brains about how it's working and pieces like that. So when we get that out, it's an email process and they get login information and step-by-step directions how to access. But again, we're going to take this and as clearly and carefully as we want to.
So the progress report that's coming out for Jordan Small is not down to the assignment level.
Right.
It's not every individual target. It'll be at the
Performance indicator
level, which I don't remember which of those reports is which, but
it's the
one with less
one-sided.
detail.
Yep, the one-sided one is what Jordan Small.
Because that's for one class.
Right. Right.
Oh,
So you
right,
can
okay.
imagine.
Yeah. It's voluminous.
Yeah.
Wyndham Primary and Manchester School are working Friday with jump rope to determine what their report will look like to go home. So those are consistent through the piece there. So.
When you had that up on the screen and you had it under the weight that you were putting for each, who's assigning the weight for that? Were you, or was
It's
it
predetermined.
predetermined?
Yeah, it's defaulted to that.
And that goes over to where it said plan, where you picked out that curriculum. Is that district-created curriculum that you're putting in?
And that's what John spoke to. As we're designing, which you've seen me present, the proficiency-based curriculum, identified standards, performance indicators, everything we have done, I have typed
Goes
in that
with it.
system.
Okay.
As we're creating, because I meet with 4 curriculum groups next week, once we have it determined, that will be going in. But there are some content areas we're not there yet. So they're using what we have. We've set up standards so that they can put in their own assessments to use the system, but it's a work in progress. So as we determine, I have the spreadsheet to upload and to put everything in, and it's live, and everything is at the teacher's fingertips. So.
Last question, do you like it?
Yes, I do. Well, I
It's a hard question.
No,
that's
I
it.
only hesitate because I'm put into a place where I can like it
Yep.
now, and I know that if there was other people sitting here, they might express a little bit more frustration.
But anytime we all do
But
it with
it's,
something.
yeah, it's change.
Yeah,
And but I've been dabbling in standards-based processes in my classroom before this happened, so it really is a welcome kind of useful tool for me, where I was just kind of trying to figure out how to make the system work for how I was doing and teaching in my class, and
Get
it
it
wouldn't.
across.
And now this came along, so it's been like you said, a steep learning curve, and not everything about the program is intuitive. and easy to figure out. But now that it's figured out, it fits what we're doing better. So.
Thanks.
I think one of the pieces that I have found really exciting with staff is they're in this, we've had some pilot groups come to the office and work through it, is the conversation of, I need to change my instruction. I need to change what I'm doing. And I think that, for me, is really exciting. So what do you want to change, and how can we support you with that? And I think that's the way that we change.
I think that's part of the reason why we're all doing it.
Yeah.
It forces the issue a little bit in our school.
I think I heard it wrong, so I just need to clarify something. This is what, the small one, is what yours looks like, yours being really small and RES. Did I hear that other schools might look a little different?
They're probably going to do that one, Marge, right there, that very first one, the piece. But we want the schools that are connected to be able to have that choice, just as Raymond has that choice to choose as well. Okay. Because again, Raymond parents are connected to Jordan Small, and primary parents are connected to Manchester, so I think our parent advisory group was very clear, please make them the same. If you have multiple kids in multiple places, that we're not back to where we were before with 5 different pieces for that part.
I just wanted to clarify that.
We will be coming back to you to share more. This is just kind of the first introduction. This is what we've learned so far. You know, and we want this to be an ongoing conversation, because it is a big piece of what we're doing in the RSU, getting towards the proficiency-based system.
So. A lot of work, huh?
It is a lot of work.
I remember from, being in your office, that this is much more than this little snapshot that we've just seen, which is exciting. Especially if it's, of course, you made it look simple, but that's okay. That was you. I'm not. Believe me, I am like no computer.
You don't have to do it that much.
But I don't have to. You're right. I don't. But anyway, anything, Jen?
Say one thing. The thing that I've been really impressed with is that the curriculum performance indicators has all been developed in-house, where some other districts just kind of adopted a package. And I think the advantage is you learn a lot as you come together and you start talking about those standards and those performance indicators, about your grade levels. It's very rich and it's homegrown. It's taken longer, but I think for the long run, it will be better off. And really, Christine and her staff have led that work, and they should be congratulated for that work. So, thank you.
I know, I'll just add one last thing on that, because I know that when Mr. Howell was here one time, and we were talking about going this way, and it was new for everybody, that's one of the things that hit me, is that he was, and you, were working on developing that, not just taking something, and that gave me a lot of peace of mind, because I trust him, I trust you, I don't know somebody else, and that makes it a little bit easier.
Good point.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Nice job.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, Randy.
Great. Before we go into executive session, because Anna probably is going to be leaving, and so I just wanted to ask her if she had anything that she wanted to bring to the board that she felt they should hear.
Not at the moment. We, as a student council, we had the school board luncheon last week, so thank you, Marge and Kate, for coming to that. But we have to mull over a couple things. But at the next meeting, I may have some proposals or some questions. I don't know, did Christine just leave?
She did.
Yeah, okay. That's fine.
Ran out the door.
Yeah, we want to, a lot of the things, I know you guys can attest to that, we talked a lot about standards-based at that luncheon. So we were going to try to invite her to the next one so we can get some clarity, because even though it's not going to affect me personally as a senior, it's still valuable to hear this information. Even just having like the little tutorial helps me understand a little more, because it's so different from what I'm going through right now. So.
Excellent. And by the way, that was right, Kate. It was a great attendance. So thank the rest of the students. It was wonderful. So thank you. Okay. Next on our agenda we're only a little tiny behind, is we're going to go into executive session for the emergency management plan. If I could have a motion, please. So moved. Okay, what it will be is Bill Hanson, the Director of Facilities, and Scott Parker, preparedness consultant, are going to present to the board the emergency management plan for our district. So, saying all that, all those in agreement? It is unanimous. We are in executive session. Thank you. Thank you. We are now out of executive session, and I will take a motion on the emergency management plan.
I move to approve the RSU 14 Wyndham Raymond School District's Emergency Management Plan for the 2014-2015 school year.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. There are no other questions from anybody. All those in favor? It is unanimous and it has been accepted. One more item on our agenda is policies. Could I have a motion on this, please?
Certainly.
Thank you, Kate.
I move to approve the second revised first reading.
This is odd wording, yeah.
And waive the second reading of harassment, sexual harassment, hazing, and bullying of students, file code JICK.
If I could get a second on this, we can discuss it.
Second.
I don't know
Second.
what second is. Yeah, it
Sounds
doesn't
right.
sound right.
Okay, thank you. I will ask, is there any comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll close public. From the board, is there any comments, questions, concerns?
Can I just offer some clarity here?
Yes, you can.
We currently have a policy, JICK. It was approved last September 2013. And all was well. And then Mr. Don Davis requested over the summer just a small tweaking, and I will show you on page 5 at the very bottom, where it says Title 1X grievance procedure. That is struck out. Is it struck? We're striking it. And we're adding discrimination and harassment complaint procedures. And then the only other change was on page 6 of 7. Under the cross-reference at the very top, strike out JIC.
6 or 7.
We only have 6 pages.
6 of 6, sorry. JIC. I like people keeping me honest. That's very good. JIC AR Title 1X Grievance Procedure Administrative Rule, strike. In its place, ACAA-R, Student Discrimination and Harassment Complaint Procedure, replaces that. And underneath that is ACAB-R. That's not what you
We
have?
don't have what was replaced.
Better
I'll
put
let you
No,
do
it's
it.
fine. It's, they have the revised version. You're just calling to attention
Oh,
what the
yeah.
revision was.
No, but she said
Right.
that she was adding something, and I didn't see what was being added
No.
on this.
Okay, give me one moment, please, and I'll
What
get
was the
my
one you
older
added
one.
again, Kate?
Did you start from the beginning, Kate?
Yep, hang on.
I have everything. The older one.
Hang on. Okay.
You gotta have that one.
I have it.
Whoops.
Kate, I have it. Would you like me to bring it to you?
5 and 6.
You just want to stretch your legs.
Can we just go through this word by word?
What are you saying?
My man.
Oh, okay, you do that.
I have this.
So this is the strikeout. And this
That's
is
what I just read.
Okay, so they have it already completed.
But no, the next one that you were talking about.
So then, I
the
have
references.
on 6 of 6, cross-reference.
So we don't have the ACAB-R.
Okay.
Oh, it needs to be added.
Yeah.
And so does
ACAAR, both of those.
ACA-R needs to be added.
So
to
both of
this.
those, yes. I'm sorry, I didn't notice
Okay.
that. Yep.
I was just looking
So
at,
you have the correct version.
I have the correct version. So what you're going to be doing,
I'll
under the
pass-
under the
pass that along if you
cross-reference,
don't mind that.
you will be adding
These two.
ACAA-R, student discrimination and harassment complaint procedure. And you will also be adding ACAB-R, employee discrimination and harassment complaint procedure. So this is just the cross-reference portion, just making sure if there's any questions, you can refer to either one of these regulations which are voted on by the board in addition to the policy. Does that make sense? I'm sorry, I just was working off of the
No,
correct
it's our
copy
error.
and I didn't.
Sorry about that.
Can you start from the beginning? Just kidding.
Yeah. I have a couple of
Yes, Jennifer. Go.
Anytime a list crossed a page, so at the bottom of page 2, you have A, B, D. Item C became the file code.
What page are you on?
I'm on
Yeah, where-
page
what'd
2.
you say,
The bottom
Jen?
of page 2, we have examples, A, B.
Oh.
Okay.
Top of page 3 is D. C is the file code. If you look over to the right, right above 2 of 6.
Oh, there's no C.
Same thing happens on page 4 to 5.
Yeah, I see it.
Is that a print error, Don?
Obviously, yeah. I thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Just something to fix before
Yeah,
we publish
no,
it.
I'm glad you saw it. Thank you. Yeah, there should be probably no J is my guess, but
Right.
we'll double check.
Just procedurally in the future, and this is my error, I need to be reminded and to remind Cindy that when you get these policies, particularly policies that we currently have on the books, such as this one, and we're making changes, that you receive on this copy in your packet what was eliminated with the strike and what was added highlighted.
That'd be helpful.
So that, and typically, historically, that's how we've done it, and I just need that to happen again. So, that will help, that will help.
Also, because there's a lot of new members in, what used to happen when when we used to get that, the expectation, if I remember correctly from Kate, was that if you saw anything, that you contacted her. You know, I mean, I'm not saying people aren't, but it's just, new people, and you kind of forget the practice of what what you've set up. That, with questions or whatever, which you did this time, which was great, but that she gets contacted, so we're not sitting here trying to
Yeah.
fix
We
stuff.
need to reformat
I
this.
appreciate the people look at it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no, I
really
mean,
thank you.
the
It's
devil's in the
embarrassing, but
details,
it's,
so this is really important.
I'm glad
So
you
I
did.
thank you. I mean, as I look like I'm not thanking you, I really am thanking you. So, just in a nutshell, this, and I'm going to defer to our illustrious Mr. Don Davis, who is just chomping at the bit to discuss this. This particular policy was not looked at by the policy committee for content. It was looked at for those references in the back. Now that it's open, content, of course, can be discussed. So if anybody has a question, feel free. I would like to defer to Don first for a little, what, am I just like going on and on?
No.
Oh, You found more, all right. Overview, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Actually, this arises from a complaint that emanated from the Wyndham Middle School sometime almost 2 years ago, where the parents of a female student had alleged that there was sexual harassment, and as a result of that the child was expelled from school because she complained about the sexual harassment as retaliation. Clearly, there's two sides to every story, but in this particular case, the parent went to the Office of Civil Rights Department, United States Department of Education, to file a complaint. It was actually, it's going to sound a bit odd, but it was actually fortuitous because the board was in a place where they were looking at policies. We wanted to have the strongest policies that we could have in this arena. So rather than fight the fight, to be quite frank with you, it was more about a resolution whereby we agreed to do a whole bunch of things to review our policies and take action to assure that we had the very best policy that we could have in regards to sexual harassment, hazing, and bullying. The information that normally comes from main school management to you folks as you deliberate on policy is always vetted by attorneys, and more than one, and they look at the national and state laws to make sure that these things are tight and correct and follow the federal or state guidelines, whatever the case may be. So in this particular case, we had United States attorneys as well as our own team of the council looking at this policy to make sure that the resolution that we agreed to would be effectuated, if you will. So there were many things that we had to do that we were happy to do, believe it or not. I'm really serious about this, which was to undertake a review of the policies to make sure that the grievance opportunities for students to be able to bring forth to administration were adhered to, that the Title IX affirmative action officer would be notified of serious incidents that occur within the schools to make sure that systemically we can do things to assure that there's safety for students. This included a survey to staff, to students, which you may remember, that went to Jordan Small, Wyndham Middle School, and Wyndham High School. It included training the entire administrative team, and I'm talking a real training session. Additionally, the first line responders, who we consider to be guidance counselors, social workers, psych service providers, were all invited to a similar training. So there's been 2 years almost of ongoing, well, I would say more like a year plus of ongoing activities to bring this to a place where the OCR agreed that we did a good job in strengthening our policies and our procedures and protocols in this very important area. So we have. But at the very final, you know, people were dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and the OCR noted that some of the, when you look at the last page and the references, that those policies had been superseded by the new work, didn't need to be there. It's as minor as that. And so, you know, that's really where we are with the policy, is just to make sure that it aligns to practice. I'm sorry that you found, you know, errors within the final version, but we can, I want to know what those are, and we'll certainly fix those so that when you take your second reading, we'll be all set.
This call to waive the second.
Yeah.
Well, if not, then I guess.
If we leave the motion as is, we would have to make an amendment to the motion, and in that amendment would have to be we'd have to make sure we caught all the changes. So we have a choice if we make the amendment. It's got to cover everything that's here if we're waiving that second reading, because there will not be a second reading.
I hate to do this, but given that the late hour and that people have found things, and I'm looking down the line, seeing that people have seen some, I think it would be better if we take it back. So maybe accept the first reading, understanding that there's going to be changes as information we receive for you, and bring it back in the cleaned up version.
Can't we just vote this down and do a first
We
reading?
can make an amendment. We can, no, we don't have to. We can make an amendment to the motion. We're going to, and rather than the policy, we're going to make an amendment to the motion, and what we're going to do is approve the revised first reading.
That's what this was.
We're not going to waive the second one.
Right.
All right?
Right.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Okay, I make a motion to the first motion that amends the agenda item on the policies, and the motion will be rewritten to say we move to approve the revised the revised second reading, and we do not waive, because this is a revision.
It's the second revision of the first reading.
Right, so it's unbelievable. We're going to approve the second revision, thank you, I like that wording, of the first reading, and that is all we're going to do.
That's right.
We're going to delete the second reading.
I second.
Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the amendment? Okay, now back to we are now going to approve the motion as amended. Could you write it down?
Which is to approve the first reading of the second revision.
Thank you. And eliminates the waiving the second reading. Okay. Okay, very good. Any comments? Say no. No. All those in favor of the motion as amended?
It's not supposed to be this hard.
No, it's not.
It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Can you explain that again?
I can.
So the only thing I waived is clever.
So we're not gonna read this.
I don't know.
No, we didn't waive it.
Who seconded that?
Was it Eric?
Eric.
Probably.
Thanks. Proudly.
Loudly.
He did, and the hour is late, so there's no more discussion. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I mean,
Okay, second. And Eric seconded. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Okay, we're adjourned.